The restaurant went silent for a moment when she walked in. The sound of clinking glasses, gentle laughter, and the low hum of piano music seemed to fade as all eyes turned toward the young woman standing in the doorway. Her dress was wrinkled and patched, her shoes were scuffed, and her hair was tied in a loose, uneven bun that barely held together. She looked wildly out of place in a fine dining restaurant where every table glimmered with silverware and crystal. The maitre d' hesitated before asking if she had a reservation. And yet, her eyes, gentle, honest, and filled with quiet strength, held something that no expensive gown could match. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and that love can see beyond appearances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the soul. Her name was Clara. A few months ago, she had been an art teacher at a small community school, full of dreams and laughter. But one tragic accident had changed everything. Her younger brother, Sam, had fallen gravely ill, and Clara had spent everything she had, every dollar, every ounce of energy, to try to save him. Hospital bills mounted, her savings vanished, and soon she had to give up her apartment. By the time she received an invitation to a blind date arranged by her friend, she was living in a small shared shelter and working nights at a diner just to survive. Her friend, Lucy, had insisted on setting her up. "He's a good man," Lucy had said, "someone who needs to meet a heart like yours." Clara had laughed bitterly. What kind of man would want to meet someone like her, a woman who now had holes in her shoes and calluses on her hands? But Lucy was persistent. "Please, Clara, you've forgotten what it's like to smile. Just one dinner. You deserve it." So Clara had agreed, reluctantly. She didn't have a dress, only an old beige one she had once used for art class. She washed it as best as she could, sewed the torn sleeve, and tied her hair up neatly. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a tired woman, but a woman who still carried dignity in her eyes. Across town, in a tall glass building that overlooked the city skyline, Adrian Vale was preparing for that same dinner. He was the kind of man people described in hushed tones, young, handsome, and already a powerful CEO. But behind the sharp suits and million-dollar smile was a loneliness no one ever saw. His life was filled with contracts, meetings, and people who wanted his attention for what he had, not who he was. His mother had passed away years ago, and since then, nothing seemed to touch his heart the same way. When his close friend Michael had set up the blind date, Adrian had almost declined. "Another social game," he had muttered. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe fate, made him say yes. When he arrived at the restaurant, he was early, sitting near the window as he adjusted the cufflinks his mother had gifted him long ago. He expected someone glamorous, elegant, maybe even a bit pretentious. But when Clara walked in, something inside him shifted. She was clearly nervous, clutching the strap of her small worn bag, looking around uncertainly. The maitre d' looked ready to escort her out, but Adrian stood up instantly. Their eyes met across the room. In that instant, something wordless passed between them. He motioned for her to come over, his expression unreadable. She hesitated, then walked toward him slowly. Whispers filled the air, and a few diners smirked behind their wine glasses, but Clara kept her head high. Adrian noticed her trembling hands, the faint bruise near her wrist, the exhaustion hidden beneath her calm expression. And yet, she carried herself with more grace than anyone else. In that restaurant, when she sat down, she tried to smile. "I'm sorry," she whispered softly, "I didn't have time to change properly. I can go if you're embarrassed." Adrian's heart tightened. Embarrassed, he thought. How could anyone be embarrassed of such honesty? He shook his head slowly. "You look fine," he said gently, though his tone carried more depth than the simple words implied. Throughout dinner, Clara spoke hesitantly at first, answering his questions politely. But as the evening went on, she began to open up, sharing stories about her students, her love of painting, and her belief that beauty could be found in broken things. Adrian listened quietly, captivated not by her appearance, but by her spirit. The way her eyes lit up when she spoke about hope, even when life had given her little reason to have any, it stirred something buried deep in his chest. Meanwhile, Clara couldn't understand why someone like him would even bother listening. He was elegant, confident, and clearly from a world far above her own. Yet he didn't look at her the way others did, with pity or judgment. Instead, he looked at her as though she were something rare, something real. At one point, the waiter hesitated to serve Clara's dish, giving her a disdainful look. Adrian noticed immediately and spoke firmly, his voice echoing across the quiet restaurant. "She's my guest. Please show her the same respect as anyone else." The waiter flushed red and hurried off. Clara's eyes welled up. No one had defended her like that in a long time. After dinner, Adrian offered to walk her out. The night air was cool, and the city lights shimmered against the dark sky. They stood in silence for a while. Then, softly, Adrian said, "I'd like to see you again." Clara's heart skipped a beat. "You don't have to say that," she murmured. "Tonight was kind, but I know what people must think when they see someone like me." He looked at her, really looked, and said quietly, "I don't care what people think. I saw who you are. And that's what matters." That night, Clara went home with a strange mix of emotions, confusion, disbelief, and a faint spark of warmth she hadn't felt in years. Over the next few weeks, Adrian kept his promise. He visited her at the diner where she worked, always sitting at the same corner booth, waiting patiently for her shift to end. He never made her feel small. He listened when she talked about her struggles, brought her books on art, and encouraged her to paint again. Slowly, Clara began to rebuild parts of herself she thought she had lost forever. But not everyone approved. Adrian's business partners warned him to stay away. "She's using you," they said. "You have no idea who she really is." Gossip spread through the company, and the tabloids whispered about the mysterious, beggar girl the CEO was seeing. Adrian didn't care. What broke him, though, was when his father, stern and proud, called him into his office one evening. "You're risking your reputation," his father said coldly. "This girl has nothing. She will drag you down." Adrian stood tall, his jaw tightening. "Then maybe it's time I stop caring about reputation," he replied. "Because for once, I've found something real." When Clara found out about the rumors, she was devastated. She wanted to protect him, even if it meant walking away. That night, she met him by the same park bench where they often sat together. "Adrian," she said softly, "you've done enough for me. You don't need to lose everything because of someone like me." He took her hands in his eyes filled with emotion. "Clara," he whispered, "you're not someone like you. You're the one person who's made me feel alive again." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I don't belong in your world. Then I'll leave." He said simply. The following week, Adrian resigned temporarily from the company, stepping away from his role to clear his mind. In those months, he helped Clara set up a small art studio with his own savings, not as charity, but as a partnership. Clara began teaching again, and her students loved her warmth and patience. Her paintings, filled with themes of resilience and love, soon caught the attention of a local gallery. Months passed, and one evening, during her first exhibition, Clara looked around the crowded hall filled with her artwork. She felt tears rise when she saw Adrian standing quietly in the back, watching her with pride. The same man who had once been surrounded by wealth and power now looked at her like she was his entire world. When the event ended, he approached her slowly. "You once said beauty can be found in broken things," he murmured. "You were right, because I was one of those broken things, Clara, and you helped me see beauty again." She smiled through her tears, her heart full. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that love sees beyond appearances, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a reason to believe again, and subscribe for more true-to-life stories that speak to the soul. Before we end, we'd love to hear from you. Would you have stayed for that blind date if you were in Clara's place? Comment below and tell us what you would have done. As the night went on, Clara stood by the window of the gallery, gazing at the city lights. Her life had changed in ways she never imagined, not because someone saved her, but because someone saw her. Adrian walked up beside her and gently took her hand. For the first time in a long while, Clara didn't feel like a woman out of place. She felt seen, cherished, and understood. The world had called her a beggar, but he had seen the treasure she carried inside. And in that moment, surrounded by the soft glow of her paintings and the warmth of his gaze, she realized something powerful. Sometimes, love doesn't come dressed in perfection. Sometimes, it walks in wearing torn clothes, carrying a heart that still dares to believe.